Hello everyone, welcome to another Wavelength series. My name is Waveney and I am your Master Leadership Mindset Coach. And I help you not just to survive, but to thrive and to become influential in your role. Now, here's a question, and if you know the question, you can say it with me. Are you ready to get on the same wavelength? Fabulous. I imagine that when I'm saying the question, that people are saying it with me, or people are responding and saying, yes, I'm ready to get on the same wavelength. Anyway, welcome back to Wavelength series. I hope you had the opportunity to view the video that I uploaded last week. Last week I spoke about the 3 C's that show up from your past when you're under pressure. And so what came to me to speak to you about today is something that most people don't really think about in the moment. And this is, who is the version of you? Who is the leader that you had to become in order to survive? Who is the leader that you had to become in order to survive? Because here's the thing, leadership is not all smooth sailing. It's not just a bed of roses. And your character, who you are as a leader, gets tested during the difficult times. But what also happens in those difficult times, or as I say, under pressure, is sometimes, many times, we pick up habits, we pick up characteristics, we take actions, and in order to get through that moment. In the moments when we are under pressure, we are just hoping to, plod through. We're just hoping to get to the other side without really thinking about, or without really reflecting on who we are becoming. And if you've been listening to me for a while, you would know that I really believe in identity. I really believe in identity. It is foundational. But we don't think about who we had to become to survive. And because we don't think about that, many times we get to a place where we hit a ceiling. We're not moving, we're not growing, we're not advancing professionally. And it is because those very same habits, that version of us that helped us to survive, it's not going to work. It's not working in the current environment. Not because things may have settled down a bit, not because that terrible situation went away. It is because those behaviors do not serve us. And they never really did serve us. It's just that they seemed like they help, right? They seemed like they help for a number of reasons, but they really didn't serve us well. There is a coach called Marshall Goldsmith, and I love a quote that he says. He says, what got you here won't get you here. And during those moments when you're in the trenches, when you're in the moment, you can't see the forest for the trees, you're just wanting to come on the other side, you're not thinking about anything else, right? And even if you are the type of leader who are, maybe you're reflective and maybe you do your journaling and maybe you've been listening to me for a while, and you take pride in your leadership, you take pride in your job, you take pride in what you do, it is still necessary for us to really evaluate and say, hey, what are we doing? Who did I become in order to survive, right? Because pressure does things to people. And so I want to share a story with you. And I really wanted to bring this topic up because it's something that we don't really think about. So many of you know that my background is in hospitality, that my background is also in HR. And I can tell you that, looking back, I am not the same person when I started in HR, right? I remember being a director of HR, and there were certain things about me that changed, and it changed because of situations that I encountered, right? And so as in my role as director of HR, I became more guarded. That role made me more guarded, more aware. And the reason that happens is over time, you realize that HR is like many people dislike HR. You've seen the memes on, online. Now, when I went into HR, it was because I loved the fact that we develop people, and that's still a core part of me. And I wanted to grow within my career. But, as you grow and as you level up, you're not always, the role isn't always sunshine and roses, right? And I knew that, of course, HR had to deliver bad news, and there are unpleasant things about being in HR, right? But I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared for the types of experiences that I've had. And so, I would find that persons who I thought were friends or thought would understand, I've had to support changes that were not popular, and then you realize how personal people take things, right? You realize that and I made some notes, you realize when you have to coach or you have to inform people. And these are people that you would have good professional relationships with, but for whatever reason, they see you as the enemy. And so, without going into like specific situations, because I am still at the time of the recording at my 9 to 5, one of these days I'll be able to talk, more in depth about it. But these types of situations were ones that made me became more guarded, right? And what does guarded mean? Guarded means that I could at times be aloof when people approach me. So when people approach me, not that I am disrespectful, but there's a shield, there's an emotional guard up, right? And I've had to do that in order to protect me. I've had people, say terrible things about me. And I don't think that any human is prepared for that, because some people could be very mean, some people could be very disrespectful, and most leaders aren't prepared for those types of things, right? And that can also add pressure to whatever the situation is, whatever else you have going on. And so I found that in terms of being in hospitality and being a director of HR, I became guarded. But on the other hand, I also wanted to balance that with being an influential leader. Because here's the thing. I don't come on here and say one thing and live another. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do this if I'm a person of integrity. Whatever I share with you is what I attempt to live. It is what I am living, right? And I'll give you an example of what being guarded looks like as well. I just looked down on my notes here. I had this situation, and it was at another place I work. I had this situation where there was this policy that we were rolling out, and people didn't agree with it, right? For whatever reason, they didn't agree with it. And I remember this one employee coming into my office one morning and talking to me about it. And I just thought that we were talking, and I pride myself in listening or being able to listen to people. And I'm the type of person, you don't have to agree. That's fine, right? And I believe that we could be in a conversation and we don't have to agree, and we can walk away and be respectful about it. And I remember this person, I listened to them, and for some reason they thought my listening and understanding the point where they were coming from, I was going to say, okay, you don't have to sign the document. So I said to them, well, you still need to sign the document. You're not signing to say you're agreeing, you're signing to say we had the conversation, right? Or the conversation, the policy was read to you. So that person, I guess they didn't like that. So they said whatever in a mean way. And I was like, and I said to them like this, it doesn't really matter. The policy is a policy. And that was it. A few weeks after, we had a regional visit. I always remember this story, right? We had a regional visit, and I remember having that regional person come out of that meeting and saying to me, this was said about you, that was said about you, and as an HR person, and they were berating me, which to this day, I'm like, that person was a terrible leader, because you don't know the context, you don't know the situation, you're hearing one side of the story. You're not even giving me a chance to explain, or I don't even know who said what, right? But that was the feedback, and they were kind of on the person's side. I remember another employee coming to me on the side and saying, Waveney, you have to be careful with people. Some of them are not for you. And I remember, I went home and I felt really, really bad, right? Fast forward, the same person who came and disagreed with the policy, they came in the office and they expressed interest in becoming, in doing training. And that time I was doing training. I was heavy into training. And so they said, I want to be like you. I was like, what do you mean? It's like, I want to do training. I want to get involved in it. And I said, sure. Here's what we could do. This is the training. We've already had this for the year. We'll have it next year, da, 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 da. And I gave them all the information. And I could only describe this as God working on their conscience. Bear with me. I know the story is a little bit long, but I think it's going to help some of you. God working on their conscience, right? And they came back afterward, could have been a day or two, and said, I'm really sorry. And I was like, for what? And they're like, when we had this visit, I was the one who, I said some things and da 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 da. They didn't know that I had received the feedback, right? So they were apologizing, and I thought to myself, what an asshole, right? Pardon my language, but I use that example to say that those types of situations were situations that made me guarded, that made me more mindful, that made me careful. And it really changed the way I interacted with that person. I don't know if they saw it or not, but it really changed the way that I interacted with that person. Now, I have had to ask myself many times, who am I becoming? And this is when I talk about influential leadership, and when I talk about identity, and I raise these types of questions. The reason I do it is because when you are going through a situation at work, you're dealing with something, like I said, a difficult team, a difficult boss, a difficult change, or you're in the moment. There are things about us, there are mechanisms, there are behaviors, there are things that we do to help us feel safe. You've heard me say this many times. Our bodies were not designed to help us to be a success. Our bodies were designed to, our bodies and brain were designed to protect us and help us to feel safe. And anytime you are in an environment, you're in a situation where you don't feel safe, you're going to create, come up, implement things that help you feel safe. And so, who is the version, what version of you, who is the version of you who, I'm tripping up over this, who did you have to become to survive? I had to become guarded. I had to become that, that wall. I had to put up that wall to protect me from feeling a type of way, even though sometimes you're human and, sometimes people will get through that wall, right? Now, at this stage, I can tell you, I am, and learning the tools and all the things that I share with you, I can tell you that I am more grounded. And so I know what my goal is. I know the leader who I want to become. I know the person that I want to be. Am I telling you that you won't get hurt? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But what I'm telling you is, when you come from a place of identity, you understand who you are, that when you're regulated, you are better equipped to manage situations, and to choose actions and behaviors that are more aligned to who you are, who you want to be, the version of your best self, or that influential leader. And so, what about you? Who have you had to become in order to survive? I want to know, right? And is that version of you serving you? Now, I jot down some things, that two situations or two scenarios that people often employ, right? So some people have, there's always this one boss that we say, I will never be like them. So if you've had a toxic boss before, you may have said, I'm never going to be like that person. And then you may find yourself in a situation where you're managing a difficult team, and all of a sudden you find yourself employing those very same tactics that you hated with people on your team. You're shouting, you are creating you're creating distance, you are more, you've become guarded, something like me, or you're doing whatever it is that toxic boss did, that you might be saying, listen, I really dislike this person, I really don't agree with them, but you know what they were doing worked because I was getting my work done. Is that you? Is that you? Because again, who is the version of you? Who are you? And what have you oh my goodness, what is the question? Who is a leader? Who is a leader that you are becoming in order to survive? Right? The other thing that you may have happening under pressure is somebody may have made a mistake on your team, right? Somebody may have made a mistake on your team and you may have been embarrassed, right? And all of a sudden, you're now saying, you know what? I'm going to do certain things myself. And instead of retraining and finding out what the core issue was, or putting measures in place, you're now taking on more, and it's adding more pressure to you because you have to do everything yourself. Lots of managers, lots of leaders do that. So what habits, what behaviors have you taken on in order to survive? Who is the leader you had to become in order to survive? Who is that person, and is it serving you? So that is what I really wanted. Let me see. Okay. That is what I really wanted to share with you today, more reflective, and to share that personal story. I don't share a lot of personal stories, but it doesn't mean that I don't have them. I understand what leadership is all about. I understand the things that leaders go through, and I know that the journey isn't easy, right? But I'm here to provide and bring you the tools that you need. Like I said in the beginning, it's not about just surviving, it's also thriving and being influential. And so really think about it. When you are going through the moment, when you're going through that situation, when you're going through that stress and frustration, these things, like I said, may look like techniques, and they may look like, you know what, this is my go-to. I know when I have X, I'm going to behave like this. But after a while, you hit a ceiling, because many times, many of these behaviors, they don't serve you well. They don't serve you well. Me being guarded could not serve me well, because if every time I encounter someone who really said something out of pocket, who said something disrespectful, how am I going to navigate that? How can I impact that person? It's going to, with my wall up, me being guarded up, at some point it would affect and impact my ability to lead, right? Because I'm seeing it through those lenses. And so, is there something that you are doing? Is there something, think about it, that you are doing right now, that you are using, to help you, that has become a part of your characteristics or a part of your toolbox, that when you're thinking about it now, it's not helpful? It may be that very thing that is stopping you from reaching to the next level. All right, so think about it. Send me a DM, leave a note in the comment. Let me know what you think about this series, and let me know if this resonates with you, and I would be more than happy to give you some pointers. But first, I want to leave with you my quiz that's below. How are you leading under pressure? Because leadership, you don't get to be a great leader in moments of, la la land, or when it's smooth sailing, or when nothing is going on. Your character, who you are as a leader, is really forged under pressure. And this is why we're talking about these topics so frequently and this year, because who are you under pressure? How are you leading under pressure? Take the quiz, let me know what your answer is, and I'll see you on another wavelength series. Bye.